My name is Tony Taylor. I can be found at tony.taylor@yahoo.com. I work with the Dad's Custody Support Group, which can be found at www.dadscustodysupportgroup.com. And my phone number is 515-401-8630, 515-401-8630. There's some other helpful sites out there for you. One is iowafathers.com, www.iowafathers.com, and then also acfc.org, which stands for American Coalition for Fathers and Children. Also, you can Google F4J. F as in fathers, the number 4, and then J as in justice. You can find just an international basis of people fighting for equal rights for dads and men. What I'd like to do in this segment here is I would like to talk about some legislation. For example, here, House File 312 by Uppmeyer. It was a bill that was discussing the act of repayment of support to an obligor finding disestablishment of paternity. And this was introduced into the Iowa House of Representatives. And what it's concerned about is the fact that that any support paid from the date of the action to overcome paternity is filed to be by the, forgive me, let me reread this, that any support paid from the date the action to overcome paternity is filed by the established father who is determined not to be the biological father shall be refunded to the established father. This bill provides that following an action to overcome paternity, if the court finds that the establishment of paternity is overcome, the order is to include a provision that any support paid from the date of the action to overcome paternity is filed by the established father who is determined not to be the biological father shall be refunded to the established father. Bottom line is that a lot of guys don't realize that, number one, the divorce rate in America is 50-50. 50% of the guys that get married will be going through divorce court. And unfortunately, people just have it in their mind that it's always going to be the other 50%. You know, people watch these silly, stupid shows on television that say that, you know, you wouldn't get divorced if you were a better communicator. You wouldn't get divorced if you would give more money to your wife, you know, and just silly, stupid things. You know, for every one of those concepts, you know, I could line up a whole litany of people that have given plenty of money to their wives and they still got their throats cut in divorce court. Or I can give you numerous people who communicate for a living that have gotten their wives to be able to cut their throat in divorce court, so against the guys. So the fact is, these are not proper salvos. The fact of the matter is there's a horrific divorce rate in this country. It exceeds 50%. And then a lot of people nowadays simply just live together thinking that that's going to protect them from the problem of divorce court because they've seen their dad go through it, or their brothers, or their buddies at work that have all their money taken away in quote-unquote child support, which is not child support. It's just backdoor alimony. But the point is that, so they say, well, you know, I'm not going to marry the girl, I'll just live with her. And so they think that they're protected, but the fact is, no. You know, the separation rate for people that live together and not married is actually higher than people that go through the details of getting married. So there's this huge demographic out there, and most people don't understand that most litigation in court nowadays is not, you know, CSI Miami and all this other nonsense. What it is divorce court. It's #1 litigation in courts today. And so what happens is a lot of guys end up in divorce court and they have these horrific child support payments put against them. And they never think to check the paternity. I mean, if the woman is willing to drag you in it, which vast percentage of time the women are the ones that initiate the divorces because it's just a golden parachute. They get the house, the car, the dog, and everything else, and everybody's sympathy, and all these pathetic people up there talking about these poor little single moms, and they show all these false statistics. But the fact is that the guys get nothing except for a hard time in a prison cell with debtor's prison, which is supposed to be illegal. So the point is that But the guys never think, wait a minute, this girl's willing to lie about me. 83% of all men are accused of abuse or assault. Maybe I should go back and check the paternity on these kids. And for the guys that do, 1/3 of all the cases show that the child was never theirs to begin with. 1/3. That is stunning. It's stunning to anybody with a brain. You know, you won't hear anybody else talking about it. You won't hear these little feel-good, you know, women's news programs talk about it. But the fact is that 1/3 of all the cases that are checked find out the kid's not yours. It's incredible. So this piece of legislation evidently to some extent was trying to address the issue of how about repaying these guys that got ripped off. They got this Bradley amendment that you know doesn't allow for so many of your due processes. But the fact is that for all these egregious cases where people are being subjugated and half of their money goes to taxes and half their money goes to quote child support, and then they got to live on what's ever left over, which is generally nothing. So this is a very interesting bill here. House File 312, which was introduced in the Iowa House.